How's it going, guys? And welcome again to Out of Bounds. I am your host, James Skrmetta, of course, but you already knew that if you've tuned in for 34 of these things. I can't believe we're already on podcast/simulcast number 34. I'm pumped. Stack show. Surprised? I'm not. This is the last day, the Friday. 24 hours from now will be the start of Championship Saturday in college football. We are going to be talking a lot of college football today. The show is almost exclusively college football. We're going to be talking some MLS Cup. The final game of the MLS season is Sunday. I will give my prediction, my thoughts on the season, and my thoughts as a newfound MLS fan. We'll talk college football. We'll talk about exactly what happened this year that led up to these games, what the games mean, and situations if some stuff breaks down. Also, I will give you my winners in college and the pros. So, enough of that. Well, I lie a little bit. Not enough just yet. Don't forget, guys, you can find us on Stitcher now, the Stitcher podcast app, the future of radio. Go to Stitcher.com or go to the App Store, search Stitcher, download it. Then search my name, James Skrmetta. Bam, you found me. Download, rate, review, share, tell your parents, tell your family, tell your parents' family, tell your family's parents. Now, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into it. We got too much show to be doing promotion. All right, we've got too much show for the fans to be worried about promoting. Because at this point, the local radio is already ran out of town. Right? It's me. And then you got your national guys who hear me knocking on the front door. They're like, no, don't open. No, that's the guy who ran out the local radio stations. This guy's in a spare bedroom creating a bi-weekly simulcast. Don't open the door. But you guys keep knocking. You guys keep knocking by sharing all these podcasts, by liking the videos, by rating them, by telling your friends. All that stuff was getting us in the door. I appreciate it. What do y'all want to start with? You want to start with MLS? You want to start with winners? Let's start with winners. Let's start with winners because the bulk of this bad boy is going to be the college football championship situation. So we'll do winners, then we'll do MLS right in the middle, like per usual, and then we're going to knock off some college football talk. Winners, let's start with college. 3 college games. I love so many lines this week. This was the hardest week I've had to create just 3 for y'all. I wanted to put so many in there. Now, we'll talk about them. So the 3 I've chosen is Southern Miss, Western Kentucky, over of 75.5. I think that game's going to be in the 90s. Southern Miss is scoring points at will right now, and Western Kentucky scores even more points. I could see this game being easy, like 56 to 40-something. It's going to be a lot of points. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. Then, I actually don't like this bet that much, but I'm putting it in there. Alabama minus 18 against Florida. The bet that I love maybe the most is whatever the Florida team total is. If your book or whoever you do this through, if they allow team total betting, what I mean by that is each team is given a predicted score pretty much. Like Florida's predicted to score, let's say 12 points. Take the under, they're scoring 0. If they're predicted to score 2, take the under, they're scoring 0. Oh, they're predicted to score half a point, take the under because they're scoring 0. But not everybody can do that, not everybody has those options. So we're just saying Bama minus 18. All Bama has to score is 18 points because Florida ain't scoring. And then the third and final game is Michigan State minus 3.5. Of course, by the hook, we're not losing. $10 of juice or whatever is not worth the heartbreak of losing on a half point. Trust me, I've been there. I'd much rather give back the double cheeseburger combo menu and have the win instead of part of my heart ripped out. So that's college. NFL right now, guys, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it anymore. When I was looking through the games, I swear to God, I was looking through the games. The first game was like Frisco. I forgot who Frisco was even playing. It was a terrible team. So it's like Frisco, Blaine Gabbert, and whoever versus another bad team. Next game, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Next game, Cincinnati and Cleveland. Next game, Houston and some other awful team. Next game, it was just like every game was these awful games, these terrible point totals, like 42, 41, 43 and a half. I mean, let me pull it up. Let me pull up the NFL schedule. This is going to be, it's going to be disgusting. Like, it's going to be awful, all right? I'm pulling it up. I don't have a producer. I don't have anybody that can do this for me. So I got to do all this garbage for myself. Here's the schedule. Texans, Bills. We'll just name the quarterbacks. Texans, Bills. Well, Brian Hoyer and Tyrod Taylor. Ravens, Dolphins. Matt Schaub and Ryan Tannehill. Bengals, Browns. Andy Dalton and my boy Austin Davis. Niners, Bears. Blaine Gabbert's in the game. Seahawks, Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater. Jets, Giants. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Cardinals, Rams. Nick Foles is in the game. Broncos, Chargers. Brock Osweiler. Falcons, Buccaneers. Jameis Winston. I mean, these games are honestly, they're Cowboys, Redskins, Monday night, Kirk Cousins and Matt Castle. Like, why am I watching these games? Why every single Sunday are we putting this garbage out? Do we not have players? How has the NFL not said, hey, can we go get Tim Tebow just for ratings? Just for ratings' sake? Please, God, can we get anybody? Brett Favre, please come back. The best thing I've seen all season is the halftime show for Brett Favre. I mean, that's the truth. But alas, I'll give you the picks. First two games in the morning, Cleveland plus 9.5. Hear me out. First of all, divisional game. These two teams know each other. The AFC North can be a gritty, grinded out kind of team, kind of division anyways. The Bengals aren't afraid to get these slosh fests where it's 13-6 or whatever. And Cleveland has my boy, Southern Miss's own, the Golden Eagle, Austin Davis, who everyone that listens to this podcast knows I played intramural softball against. An NFL quarterback, NBD, no big deal. Kind of a big deal, though. He was the pitcher for the Southern Miss football team, softball team, and me and all my squad had a softball team. So he was throwing up meatballs, and I was sitting there, shaking the bat around, making it happen. Captain was making it happen. I handled the scandal. I pushed him out. He tried to paint the black. I pushed him into the gap. I didn't even think about it. Whatever. Until this moment, I didn't even think about it. This moment was the first moment I've actually allowed myself to relish on taking an NFL professional quarterback oppo like taco. So you have that. But Davis is good. Okay, he's good. He's not flashy. He's not Manziel by any means. But he's so much better than Manziel. Like, he's not going to run around in the pocket and do these crazy plays. Austin Davis, to me, in this NFL, from the people that I just read you, he's a top 15 kind of guy. Like, he's a guy you want on your team. He's going to give you everything he's got. He's the opposite of a distraction. Whatever a distraction is, he's the opposite. And if you get him an assist, he's almost identical to Drew Brees in how he plays. Almost identical. I love the guy. I'm so happy he's getting another chance to start. Whenever Cleveland brought him in and paid him all that money, you could tell that he would probably get a chance. You don't pay a third-string quarterback a couple $1 million. So I knew once the Manziel thing kind of fizzled out and McCown got hurt that they liked what they saw in Davis. And Davis played in St. Louis. He played against Seattle. He played against a good Niners team. So this guy can ball. Next game, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Over 43.5. Reason I like the over is this is a rare NFL game where both teams have decent quarterbacks. Mariota's good, Bortles is good, and the Jaguars have moved the ball. With the Yeldon and Hearns and Robinson and their wide receiver corps. I mean, they move the ball. Both these teams aren't afraid to throw the ball around, and both quarterbacks have looked well. So I'll take my chances with a 43.5 point over. So that's what I got in the morning. The afternoon game, kind of a weird line. Denver -3 at San Diego. Denver just beat Indianapolis. So you'd think the line would be a little bit bigger, but the line is 3 against Diego, who's like a 3-win, 2-win team. So I don't really understand that. I don't know if Vegas is still hoping people will bet against Brock Osweiler. But the truth is, Denver, I said it last week, we picked Denver to beat the Patriots. We said it last week. We said +3. I mean, go watch the video. We said it. Like, we were on it. We understood because Denver, I'll tell you the same thing I said last week. Denver is better without Peyton Manning. Brock Osweiler is better at this point in his career than Peyton Manning at his point in his career. Because not only at the quarterback position, but Brock can move around. It allows him. I heard a stat that Brock in the past 2 games has been under center like 95 times or something. And the whole season, Peyton has been under center like 80 times. It's a totally different offense. Like, people forget that Peyton Manning is a walking system. Right? You don't put Peyton Manning in your system. He's Peyton Manning. He basically is the coach as well as the quarterback. So Peyton's doing all these shotgun snaps and, well, I mean, that doesn't work for everybody. If you're snapping the ball out of shotgun, we'll say 70% of the time, that means a lot of your running plays are only running plays you can run out of the shotgun. And some running backs don't respond well to that. Some offensive lines don't respond well to that. And some defense key in on that. And so Peyton was hurting the offense when he had the ball and when he didn't have the ball. Just the way his scheme was, just the way all that stuff was. Osweiler is bringing all of that together. He's a true quarterback. He can do whatever he wants. He's young. He's healthy. He can run if he wants to. Well, he's not run in the sense of Michael Vick. But if he has to roll out, if he has to do play action, if he has to run or reach, like a halfback reach or halfback stretch, he can do that. Peyton's not play actioning out or running a halfback stretch. Peyton is snapping the ball in the shotgun, minimal movement, and probably throwing pick sixes. So I think Denver with Brock Osweiler is a really good team. And I don't think San Diego is. And San Diego likes to throw the football. They don't have Keenan Allen. Denver has a great defense, great pass defense. So we're going Denver all day, every day. Sunday night, Indy, Pittsburgh is, I don't know. This one's just put $10 on this. Don't put a lot on this. Indy, Pittsburgh over a 48. The reason I've gone with this is because I think people are kind of shunning it because it's not Andrew Luck. But Matt Hasselbeck is better than, has the team moving just as good as Luck. So I think both teams can score. If Roethlisberger doesn't play, I'd shy away from the over, but who knows. And then Monday night, Washington -4 against Dallas. Dallas lost Romo for the year. I don't know if you guys remember, but without Romo, they were awful. They didn't win a game. They were 0-7. And Washington's not good, but they got to be better than a downtrodden Cowboys team who just got embarrassed on Thanksgiving, lost their quarterback, and their season is effectively over. So I'm expecting a disheveled Dallas Cowboys team, not going to be good, and I'm expecting Washington to dominate. Now, that is the winners. The MLS Cup, the final game of the MLS season, kicks off Sunday at 3 o'clock, and it is with the Columbus Crew versus the Portland Timbers. Last week, I said whoever came out of the East would beat Portland, and I do believe that. The game is in Columbus, which is, a healthy road trip for Portland, and the Columbus fans or diehard fans, the stadium will be popping. It's sold out. And I think Columbus is the better team. I think Columbus will win. Kai Kamara, Ethan Finley, Higuain, the players like that for Columbus, really strong, a really strong core. I think Portland is running off of fumes. They're running off of just emotion, and they've kind of had this, they've been hot since the last part of the year. I think they're good. They're a good team. They deserve to be here. I'm happy they're here. The Rose City loves their soccer, and I think it's awesome. I just think Columbus has too much for them. To be honest, I think Kai Kamara will score. I think Kai Kamara will be an absolute demon out there. He plays with a lot of gusto anyways. In this kind of a game, I can only imagine. So I'm going with the Columbus Crew to be your 2015 MLS Cup champions. And what a season it's been. We do the MLS Minute here every week, and we talk a lot of MLS. And it's been awesome. It really has. I bought the package. If you've been listening to the show, you know my story. But I bought the MLS Now package on a whim. It was like $30, and it was right after the All-Star game. So it was directly in the middle of the season. And I was working Saturdays at the time, and I was like, man, that's when they play all their games, is Saturday. And I was like, I can just watch it at work. Like, I have my iPad there. I can have it kind of watching it on the side of the computer, just like throughout my day at work, so I just sat there anyways. So I bought it, $30, who cares? And did exactly what I said I was going to do. I just streamed pretty much every game. And then, throughout the week, they'd play a game on Wednesdays. They'd play some Sunday games. And so I would just stream. Like, I would just lay in bed and have a game on. They usually play, they'd have a kind of a decently timed game and then a game in, Vancouver or something from 10 to midnight. And I'd just watch the game. And it's probably honestly, it's probably the sport that I watch besides NFL football and college football, and besides American football, is the sport I watch the most. Is the MLS. Love it. I absolutely love it. I love to see people getting into it. You can see the MLS is growing just from this year. With players like Gerrard coming and Lampard coming and Pirlo and Giovinco and all these players. And you hear these names like Carlos Vela and Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Ronaldo and these teams like the Beckham team in Miami sprouting up. And people in America don't think about it like this, but people in other countries want to be in America. So if Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's in Paris. It's not like he's in some downtrodden, he's not a third world country. But if he wanted to leave Paris and he wanted to go to the team in New York, live in New York, make good money, and dominate a league, why the hell wouldn't he? It's one of those situations where the league may be minor as far as not in the top 5 power leagues in international soccer. So it might be out of that, but the cities are top-notch. You have Toronto, you have Montreal, you have Vancouver, you have New York, you have LA, you have Atlanta, you have Chicago, soon to have Miami. These are huge destinations. Huge destinations. Houston, Dallas, Washington. These teams are huge. So I think the MLS is only going to keep growing. What I think should happen is I think they should bring younger international stars who are maybe not getting a chance to shine at their club and bring them to the MLS. Let them be huge, like Chicharito, Javier Hernandez. He's doing really well at Bayern Leverkusen right now, a German club, but he was kind of idling at Real Madrid. He idled at Man United, his parent club. So, if he came over to a huge city like Atlanta and started that team, he would dominate the league. I just think the MLS is fantastic. I love all the promotion they're getting on ESPN, on Fox Sports. I see it all the time now, all over the place. I hear people just talking about it. So the playoffs have been on cable. The Cup will be on cable. Go figure out what time and what channel it's on for you. Please watch it. And next year, I will have it from the jump of the year. The MLS package, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Also, go to their YouTube page or their homepage or Kick TV. People like Jimmy Conrad and Rachel Bonetta and all these people doing things for American soccer. Hugh Wizzy over at Kick TV. They're all doing an incredible job, and they're putting faces and personalities to the game, and it's so important. And they're doing in the media world what Atlanta Donovan and Alexi Lawless and all these people did on the pitch. So that's my spiel on the MLS and American soccer. Let's get, finally, if you've made it this far, let's talk college football. Biggest weekend in college football. This is how the playoff ranking is set right now. Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Iowa is your playoffs. That's the 4. If they win, they're in. That's it. Bottom line. Oklahoma, in my opinion, is in. Impossible to be out. Bama wins, they're in. Clemson wins, they're in. Iowa wins, they're in. So the 4 teams are set right there. You're looking at them. All they got to do is win. Now, behind that is Michigan State. That's a play-in game. Iowa plays Michigan State. The winner of that gets a spot. Bama plays Florida. Florida cannot get in. Bama wins, they're in. If they lose, then you see teams like Ohio State sitting at 6. Stanford is sitting at 7. That's really the only 2 teams I think could get in if Bama loses. But if Bama loses, you'll see probably Ohio State jump. They have 1 loss. They have lost 1 game in 2 years. If Stanford wins against USC and wins the Pac-12, then it could be a little different. You could say, well, one's a conference champion, one's not. But I think Ohio State would get in. Now, if Clemson loses and Ohio State loses, right? Clemson plays North Carolina. North Carolina is number 10 in these rankings. I'm surprised they're not higher. This is why I hate the rankings, okay? North Carolina is 10, right? Florida State is 9. Florida State has no chance at all in hell, nothing they can do. They're sitting at home. There's absolutely no possible way Florida State could get in the playoffs. There is a possible way that North Carolina could get in the playoffs. So why does the committee have North Carolina below Florida State? Like, it makes no sense to me, right? Because if it's a BCS system, I'd be looking at this like, well, if North Carolina can't jump from 10 to 4, right? If Florida State's 9, Notre Dame's 8, Stanford's 7, Ohio State's 6, like, they can't jump that high. But with the committee, it's just people. So one week North Carolina could be 10, the next week they could be 4. That's why I think the ranking system is stupid. That's why I think it's broken. That's what I've been saying to y'all all year. The debate is, if North Carolina beats the number 1 team in the nation, they'll be 12-1. They'll have beaten the number 1 team in the nation, and they'll be the ACC champion. So that you would think they would jump really high. Second issue is, they've played multiple teams in the lower division, right? You have your teams, your Division I teams, and you have your FCS teams or whatever. They played 2 of them. So it's like, well, they're 11-1, but are they really 9-1? Like, they're playing FCS schools. Should a team be allowed to be in the playoffs that has a schedule that's soft? Personally, I don't think North Carolina would get in if they beat Clemson. Some people think it's a lock. Like, I was listening to ESPN and Booger McFarland was saying if they beat North Carolina beats Clemson, they're guaranteed a spot. But I don't think so. If North Carolina has a loss to South Carolina, first game of the year, and if they beat Clemson, and let's just say Michigan State beats Iowa, and that's going to drop. I mean, it's going to be a question between Ohio State, North Carolina, and Stanford if Stanford wins. So, do I think Ohio State deserves to be over North Carolina? North Carolina ACC champions. Personally, yes, I do. I think North Carolina is better than. I think Ohio State is better than North Carolina. I just don't. North Carolina's schedule is so bad. They've played. It's a lot like Iowa, right? Iowa, if they had one loss, they wouldn't even be in the conversation. They wouldn't even be anywhere near the conversation. The whole thing is that North Carolina lost the first game of the year. So they've rattled off 11 straight wins. If they would have lost last week, they wouldn't be in the playoffs, right? If Iowa loses Saturday, they ain't in the playoffs. They have one loss, but they ain't in the playoffs. Having a conference championship weighs on some people, but I don't think it's enough to move them from 10 to 4. I mean, that's a huge jump. With teams here that are not going to move, like Ohio State can't lose, so they're not going to drop. Stanford can't lose, they're not going to drop. Or Stanford can lose. Notre Dame can't lose. Like these teams, Florida State can't lose. These teams aren't going to drop. It'd be different if they had a bunch of teams that were playing. But if Stanford wins, Stanford's sitting at 7, okay? Let's say Clemson loses. If Stanford and North Carolina win, mathematically, you think that Stanford would jump from 7 to 4 before North Carolina went from 10 to 4. You see what I'm saying? That's what doesn't make sense to me with the playoffs, is why they set it up to where teams theoretically are in a line, but if Condoleezza Rice and her goon squad wanted to, they could just jump people like Sorry or something. So I don't know. This system's kind of wonky to me. It's hard to predict because I'm predicting what 12 people think. I'm not predicting what numbers are. I'm not predicting a BCS system that I've seen for years and years and years. I'm predicting what Condoleezza Rice had for lunch that day. I'm predicting what kind of mood they're in. But looking at the games, the only team that I truly think can lose with any kind of meaning behind it, because obviously Iowa or Michigan State will lose, but it won't matter because the winner of that game is going to the playoffs. Clemson is the only team I think is going to lose. Alabama is going to beat Florida like it stole something. Florida will not score. 0 points. I said it before the beginning of the show. I say it again. They scored 0 points. Florida may be the worst 2-win or 2-loss, 3-loss SEC school in the history of the SEC. I don't know how they got this far. What Florida State did to them, 27-2, made me sick to my stomach. So I think that when we leave Saturday, when all is said and done, when that final beer, when the final chicken wing has been eaten, I think you'll be looking at Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan State. I almost wanted to go back and say Clemson was losing because they haven't played well at all. But this is North Carolina's first test. Should we call the upset? I don't know. I think North Carolina is playing better, but I don't know if they're necessarily the better team. A lot changes in a big game. It's easy week to week to do stuff, but when you're in a conference championship, when you're in a bowl game, when you're in a BCS bowl game, different stuff happens. I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna be a close one. It's a 5-point game in Vegas. It's 5 points. Clemson is -5, -4 in some spots. So it's gonna be a close one. They're pretty much saying that North Carolina has as good of a chance to beat Clemson as Iowa does to beat Michigan State. So if you look at it like that, maybe North Carolina can do it. I'm not ready to say they are, but man, that would be wild if they did. That's college football at its finest if they did. If North Carolina beats Clemson, I'm telling you right now, the playoff committee does not want that to happen because they don't want to put North Carolina in there. ESPN doesn't want North Carolina in there. ABC doesn't want them in there. Disney doesn't want them in there. None of those guys want them in there. The only people that want North Carolina in there is Larry Fedora, North Carolina players, North Carolina students, and their family. That's it. And there's not even a guarantee that they'll be in there, but they don't want to make the decision between Ohio State and North Carolina, right? Or Stanford and North Carolina. They don't want to make those decisions. So that's my prediction. Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan State beats Iowa, gets in the playoffs. That's what I'm going to say. But the Clemson game, I think, will be close. I think North Carolina has the firepower. They're playing good enough to beat this team. We'll just see if Clemson's the real deal. And if Clemson's 13-0, then hey, good on you. If that's the case, that's the case. Last little thought here. We only have a couple minutes left. How crazy is it that the 4th and 25 play with Ole Miss and Arkansas mattered so much? Let's just think about it like this. If that play doesn't happen, and it's an absolute miracle that it did, Ole Miss is number 13 in the college football playoffs right now with 3 losses. They're the highest-ranked 3-loss team. If they had 2 losses, if they would have beat Arkansas, you have to believe they would be somewhere around where North Carolina is. They'd be somewhere probably higher. They'd probably be in that 9-6 area, somewhere in there. Somewhere with Notre Dame, Stanford, somewhere in there. So if Ole Miss is sitting at 7, let's just pick a number. They're sitting at 7, playing Florida for the SEC championship game, which they'd be a favorite in. They'd probably win. So then let's say you have a 2-loss SEC champion. Do you keep them out? I mean, Ole Miss would have a real argument at a college football playoff berth, but they lost to Arkansas on a 4th and 25 play. Like, you could bring up the Memphis thing, but that Memphis beat them. Arkansas pulled out an absolute miracle. That was one play. 4th and 25 doesn't happen. Ole Miss is probably the SEC champions, probably knocking on the door of the playoffs. They would need some help. They would need... Well, Bama wouldn't be there, so they would need Clemson to lose. They would need some shaking up to do. But, I mean, everyone would be moved up. Oklahoma would probably be 2. Iowa and Michigan State would be 3 and 4, so one of them would lose. I mean, Ole Miss would have a real... I mean, look at this, boys. Let's say that's the situation. It would more than likely be Clemson, Oklahoma, Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State, and in this situation, Ole Miss. So then they would have Iowa or Michigan State lose, they'd fall out. So it would be between Ohio State, who's on a bye week. It would be between Ohio State with 1 loss and a 2-loss SEC champion Ole Miss. What do you do if you're the committee? Of crazy that Ole Miss did that. I mean, you're talking like 4th and 25 held them back from potentially a college football playoff berth. Insane. This weekend, I said it before, I'll say it again, is the best weekend in college football. I hope your team is playing. Mine is playing. I graduated from the University of Southern Mississippi. I will be watching that game intently. Last time we were in the conference championship, I was attending college. We went to Houston, beat the number 6 ranked team in the nation, coached by Kevin Sumlin and quarterbacked by Case Keenum. Sumlin's now at Texas A&M. Keenum's now in the NFL. So Southern went down there with Austin Davis. The show is wrapping itself into an intergalactic wormhole. Austin Davis and Southern Miss went to Houston, beat Case Keenum, beat Kevin Sumlin. I was pumped. I'll never forget where I was. I was in the reserve apartments in Hattiesburg eating barbecue that my roommate's dad had kind of catered or whatever, and just eating barbecue. I'll never forget my roommate at the time. We were all super hungover. I'll tell this quick story before we leave. My roommate was super hungover. We were all really hungover, and we woke up like 10 minutes before the game. My friend's dad woke us up. And we were sitting on the ground. There were so many people in the apartment. We were sitting on the ground, and my friend was eating barbecue. No plate. He just had like ribs, and he was just eating these ribs. And it was like he rubbed it on his face before he took a bite. So he had barbecue sauce all over his face. And I'm sitting there, and I look at him, and he looks at me. We're next to each other. It was like me and the sailor. And I look at him, and he takes his shirt, his white shirt, and brings it up to his mouth and just wipes his face off with barbecue sauce and just puts the shirt back to where it was and just leans back and keeps watching the game. Just watch the game with barbecue sauce covering him. It was disgusting. But we won, we dominated, so hopefully Southern Miss does the same thing. Like I said, guys, I hope your team is playing and I hope they win. I'm rooting for all of the guys who root for me by listening to this podcast. So thanks, guys. Again, it is Friday. You made it. You made it to the end of the podcast, end of the week. You deserve a round of applause. So thanks, guys, again. This is Out of Bounds. I am your host, James Skrmetta. Y'all have a fantastic weekend, guys. I'll see you on Monday when we finally know who will be in the playoffs. See you then.